The economic nightmare is about to get worse. Hey everybody, you're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. As always, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the Tyson fight. I predicted it correctly. People were spending it was thousands of dollars to watch that fight, and it was elder abuse. It was a joke. Why do we talk about that? Because people spend money on these things, and these are jokes. These are staged events. They're money grabs. Just like the whole slap was fake. It was a way to get people interested to increase ticket sales. Right? We're going to talk about that. Hopefully you weren't fooled. But if you already had Netflix, it didn't cost anything to watch it, so I ended up watching it. We'll talk about that. But first, the economy, folks. Things are about ready to get a lot worse. I know a lot of optimism is out there right now amongst the population because they think that there's going to be huge changes coming forward. There's going to be huge changes, and guess what? They're going to be inflationary, right? So we're going to talk about that and more. We've got examples of government spending. This is a new report out, but it goes back many years as far as the types of wasteful spending that's happening. Now, the new administration is talking about cutting spending and getting rid of a lot of government jobs, things like that. But it was discovered that the government spent $2.7 trillion on payment errors since 2003. $2.7 trillion, a little over 20 years. And that is, folks, that's something that if you and I did that as a household, if we made that many, of course, it wouldn't be that large of a number, but bring it down to smaller numbers, to household numbers. If you spent even 10% of your income paying out in erroneous payments, you would go bankrupt very quickly. But we see the endless money creation allows the government to just be massively inept, and some people would argue that there's a more purposeful method behind what they do. But here's some other just quick examples. There's so many we could spend all day talking about this topic here: wasteful spending, improper payments, of course. Maintaining empty government buildings. Government agencies announced that they're using just 12% of the space of all these government buildings, just using 12%, folks. That's less than 1 in 6 of the space. And this was even pre-pandemic was bad, but now it's really bad. And the House Oversight Committee spent $3.3 billion on furniture over the past few years. And many of this was unhoused office space. Hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer funds are spent annually just to maintain government-owned properties that should be sold off. That's what one chairman came out in the House Oversight Committee. $1 billion or more could be saved annually by terminating unneeded federal office space leases. So the bottom line is, folks, the government gets away with massive wasteful spending. And again, you and I, if we did that, we'd be in big trouble financially for ourselves or for our households. All right, now speaking of households, there was a news kind of an interview type of thing that came out recently on a couple, $100,000 in credit card debt. And where's this side of MoneyWise? And I'm sure if you saw these people out and about, just out shopping or whatever, you would think they were doing well. Nice cars, spending a lot of money. Quote, "We took out a loan to pay off credit cards, and we maxed them out again. Couple drowns in $100,000 credit card debt because husband can't stop spending." All right, so that was an interview. You guys can check that out if you want to. But the bottom line is, folks, this is just one example of millions. People are living off of debt. And how are people able to do that? Well, that's because the system of money right now, it allows us to create endless amounts of money out of thin air. So when banks loan out too much money, when people can't pay it back, doesn't matter, because they could just get bought out by another bank that, for the most part, creates money out of thin air. So it's a never-ending spiral. But what it does end up doing is it creates a massive cost of living rise, what people would call inflation. I think inflation is a term that people need to think about, though, because inflation just means prices are going up, or the cost of living is going up. But we need deflation, and of course, we've talked about that 100 times here on this channel. But the news that's put out there is, inflation is slowing, so things are getting better. No, things are getting worse, just at a slower pace. Well, I think what's going to happen here in the next couple months, things are going to get worse at a more rapid pace. In other words, inflation is going to go up even higher. And this euphoria that people saw and this hopium that people have right now that there's going to be a new administration, they're going to come in and clean house and fix everything. Folks, you cannot fix things within the current system. You have to have a whole new structure, a whole new system if you ever want to stop the price rise incidents, if you want to stop the cost of living and these price levels from going up higher and higher and higher. Here's an example here. Automobile prices still high compared to where they were just a few years ago. And here's the reason, folks. Total balances of auto loan debts, or auto loans and leases both, for new and used vehicles rose by $18 billion just in the third quarter of this year. And that's up 3.1% year over year. Now, those numbers may not be a lot to you, 3.1% up year over year, but this is in a rising delinquency environment. Rising delinquency environment. And this type of environment before, go back to 2010 and before that, there would be a strict pullback on lending when delinquency started rising. We saw it in the financial crisis. Very big pullback, right? Banks didn't know if they were going to survive. Since then, though, it's guaranteed life support for the banks, endless bailouts, too big to fail, many different names for what we have right now. But this is what is created, and these are the symptoms, and this is the product of this type of method where banks don't have to be held accountable. Like, again, you and I have to be accountable for our household budgets, right? We may have a spouse or somebody, watching over how we spend our money, and maybe not, maybe you're single, but either way, you're responsible at the end of the day for your household budget. But we see no responsibility out of the ones that have the most money, the ones that could just borrow endless amounts of money or create it, depending on how you want to look at it. The 3.1% year over year growth rate was the second smallest since the first quarter of 2021. So the rate of debt accumulation is slowing because, again, so many people already have so much debt right now. You've got to wonder how much more they're willing to pile on. But it looks to be endless. Yes, it is slowing, but it's still a lot. And folks, that's just another example of why you haven't seen the cost of automobiles go down. And broaden that out, that's why you haven't seen the price of hardly anything go down, is because this method of money madness, MMM, method of money madness, is everywhere. And let's talk about the housing market, folks. Seattle home prices skyrocket now to a median price, $740,000. Let me put a pause on this here. And we're seeing this mix of rising prices and falling prices. Let's make that window a little bit smaller here. Ultimately, though, nationwide, prices are coming down. But if you just look in the big cities, like the biggest 10 or 20 cities, most of them, about 95% of them, prices are still rising. In Seattle, in October, home sales in the Seattle area increased by 27%, folks. And that's largely due to down payment assistance programs, brief, small drop in mortgage rates. In October, home sales in the Seattle area increased 27%, and prices went up to $740,000. That's up 8.8% year over year. Right, this housing market continues to baffle most people. It baffles economists. It baffles just the average person that's watching these home prices. And people have been saying here, even in my comments on this channel, people have been saying the bubble's got to bust. The bubble's got to bust. It's got to go bust. Home prices are too high. People can't afford this. Things are too expensive. Folks, if you keep doing the things that you did as far as this method of money, if you keep doing the same things that led up to the bubble is going to get bigger, right? Too big to fail financial institutions, it's still here. Banks loaning out endless amounts of money, it's still here. No reserve requirement. In other words, they can have zero in their vaults and deposits, and they can still make out loans, all right? And of course, they're going to have some money there because some people come in and they need to withdraw cash. But when you look at it, folks, it's a fraction of what they have in reserves compared to how much they loan out. So technically they're insolvent. It's just that the method of money has been so twisted right now that you're going to see these prices get worse. Now there's talks that there's going to be, again, big changes, but tell me, what kind of changes are going to fix this? Fiddling with the tax code, tax cuts for billionaires, deregulation. Deregulation is going to make things even worse, folks. You think the banks are crazy now and that they get away with a lot now? Imagine more deregulation on the top of this. And imagine, okay, let's say they cut spending, right? The money that they save when they cut spending, let's say they shut down a lot of these government offices that are not used. The money that's saved there, where's that going to go? Is it going to go to you? Or is it going to go to the billionaires, right? They'll probably hand it out to the billionaires. And trickle-down economics, you know, people think that that's the way to go. Tax cuts for billionaires. The better the multinational corporations do, the better the billionaires do, the more jobs that they will create for the working class. See, that's how it's looked at right now. Trickle-down economics is basically saying that people are dependent on the mega rich and the mega companies for a job. In other words, you're not self-sufficient. You can't be self-employed. You can't do anything for yourself. You're dependent on getting a job from the billionaire class. That's how they want you to look at it. Everything's been twisted upside down and inside out. It used to be that the working class was the fuel for economic growth. We, the working class, we created things. We were the farmers. We were working in the manufacturing facilities. We were the driver of economic growth. We created things. Now we're just dependent on the billionaires for a job for the most part. That's how it's designed, and I think that's how it's processed, and I think it's done on purpose, folks. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Look at this. People blamed the current administration, the administration that's been in power since 2020. They blame them for the rising costs. Was it fair? We asked economists. This is the USA Today article. Was it fair? Well, people typically get the blame. The ones that are in office typically get the blame for what happens under their watch, even though they might have had little or no control over it, right? You think Grandpa Joe was responsible for the record high stock market, right? Remember when he took over, people said the stock market's going to crash. He has no knowledge or idea of how to run things. Folks, he doesn't run things. He's handed orders. He's given a prompt and a teleprompter to read and exactly what to say. Folks, these people are reading off of a script. They're following orders. They're doing what they're told to do. And yes, it may be less of that in the next administration, but you don't think they're still under the rulership of somebody higher up? If you think they're not, then I think you're kidding yourself. And I think if you're really optimistic that there's going to be a lot of changes, yes, there'll be some changes, but the bottom line, it's still going to be more debt, higher cost of living, and more money up to the top 1%, top 10%. And it's going to continue, folks. It's going to get worse. The cost of living is going to get worse. And yes, they'll do handouts and they'll say, oh, we're going to cut here, cut there to make your life easier. But ultimately, will it be easier? I don't think so. And if you disagree, I'd like to hear from you down in the comments. That's what this channel is about. It's about discussing these things. And if you post something down in the comments that changes my mind, I'll talk about it. All right. And I'll bring it up here. And maybe I should start doing live streams so we can have some real time back and forth type of thing. But I do read your comments, and I'll be reading them in this video as well. Gold just faced its worst week since 2021. 2021. What did I tell you right here? I said, do not chase it. What goes up very quickly will likely come back down. I said the same thing about the stock market. We saw that euphoria after February 5th. Stock market came back down, and in fact, it erased about half of its gains already. Folks, don't chase. Be patient. Speaking of being patient, I just sold off another chunk of my crypto portfolio, about another 10 to 15%. I'd have to look, but big run-ups in crypto lately. Am I buying more now? No, I'm selling off because I expect now the euphoria to fade away, and you're going to see prices go back down. Maybe not to where they were, but I think they're going to go back down after this latest euphoria. Bitcoin, what, 90,000? Folks, insane, folks, just insane. And remember, don't chase. Things don't go up in a straight line. They don't go down in a straight line, typically, unless you see a massive panic or a massive crisis unfold where things drop like an elevator. But normally, things are choppy on the way up and on the way down. Gold, though, take a look at a chart here. This is a year-to-date chart, so almost a one-year chart. Look at the sell-off here just in the past few weeks. We were up to, looks like 70. We were up to about 2,800, just under that. Now we're down to 2,577 as I'm recording this right now. S&P 500, folks, the same thing. This index was up to over 6,000. We pulled back down to 5906. But if you look back over the past few years, it's just a steady uptrend, right? With pullbacks here and there. So if you believe that this will continue, then you should be a dip buyer right now. I personally think there's a lot of risks out there with the new administration and just with the system in general, right? There's even a question on, will the Fed chairman stay in office? A lot of people say that's a nothing burger because they say even if they replace him, and we're talking about Jerome Powell, even if they replace him, they're just going to put him in with another order taker, another puppet. And if you believe that's true, I would tell you to expand your mind and think about that in a broader spectrum, that pretty much everyone in power is taking orders from somebody higher up, right? We're talking about the very, very top, the people that actually create this money, right, out of thin air, folks. It's the banks that run everything here. All right, now on to some more personal budgeting and personal finance type of news and information here. We're going to try to save these types of things for the end of the video, like what people spend on entertainment. Today's example, the Tyson fight. And also here's another one here. Look at this. A $12,000 surgery to change eye color is surging in popularity. $12,000, folks. Look at this. People want to change the body that they were born with, and in this case their eye color, right? I don't like my eye color. I wish my eyes were darker because I would be, I think, less sensitive to light, right? If the sun gets in my eyes, I have to wear sunglasses. I think that has to do with eye color. Maybe not. I could be wrong. Bottom line is, though, yeah, I'd like to change a lot of things about the way I am, but $12,000 to change your eye color, and what are the risks in this surgery? I'm thinking that we're going to see some stories that come out of this, that, oh, this surgery went bad, now this person can't see, or they can see, but everything's dark, everything's blurry. It's just, folks, the things people are spending their money on, entertainment, surgeries, and again, it's only possible with the current system of money right now, where money's just digits on a screen that can be created to infinite amounts out of thin air. And you wouldn't see this type of spending in another system where money actually had to be earned and couldn't be just endless. It couldn't just be to infinity. And this creates a lot of waste. It creates a lot of problems. Even celebrities. Look at Mike Tyson, back to the fight again. You know, someone that's one of the most famous people in the world. At his peak, he was considered the best of the best. I mean, the best, the legend. And he looked like a joke in the ring. Friday, was that Friday? Yeah, 2 days ago, Friday, was it the 15th? On the Netflix evening fights. And he looked like it was a laughable. It was actually more sad than laughable. I wasn't laughing. But it looked like elder abuse. It looked like he was just out there for a paycheck. And I mean, what did you think about that fight? That's what it looked like to me. It was all hyped up to get people to watch, with the whole slap in the meet up there in the weigh-in. And you know, people, a lot of new subscribers to Netflix, right? So it worked as far as the ones putting this on, but the fact that people are willing to spend money on it, I guess I'm just as guilty. I'm not going to sit here and act like I wasn't guilty. I watched the fight. And to be fair, like I said before, we already have Netflix. It's something my whole family, I'm outvoted. I say let's not spend money on entertainment to a degree. I mean, obviously there's always something that you want to spend on entertainment. People would even consider having access to the internet as entertainment. I look at it as more than that. I look at it as a must because I pay my bills on the internet. I do research on the internet. But YouTube and the internet, let's just use those as examples. That actually saves a lot of money. Imagine all the books you don't have to buy to get information now. You can just instantly go online and look at what people are saying, look at the news, and all the books that you're not having to buy. And then you have a whole bookshelf, maybe a whole wall full of books that you read that you're probably never going to touch again. So entertainment, news, information, I mean, it's all kind of one thing. Sports entertainment, people would say that's optional, that you don't have to have that unless you're an addict where you have to have sports. And I know sports addicts. I used to be one. I used to be a sports addict. I used to keep track of baseball. I used to know all the statistics, the batting average. I'm talking about when I was really young. And used to spend a lot of time and energy and money on that type of thing. Even went to a lot of baseball games. Anyways, I'm going to gonna wrap it up. Happy holidays to everybody. It's that time of year. We got Thanksgiving coming up here in less than 2 weeks. And it's the holiday season, the shopping season. You're going to see a lot more Amazon trucks out there. It's supposed to be a record spending holiday season once again, even with debt levels at an all-time high. So where does it end, folks? Well, we're going to keep track of everything here for you. Again, make sure you subscribe, stay ahead of the financial curve. We'll talk to everybody very soon. Keep stacking as always. Bye for now. Peace.